All right, so we'll begin with the opening sutra. An unsurpassed, penetrating, and perfect dharma is rarely met with, even in 100,000 million kalpas. Having it to see and listen to, remember and accept, I vow to taste the truth of the Tathagata's teachings. And the Dana statement. In Buddhism, when Zen practitioners share their understanding of the teachings and practice, it is offered freely as a practice of Dana Paramita. Dana is a Pali word that means generosity or to give freely, and this practice is done without expectation of getting something in return. This is the spirit of speaking about the Dharma. Other ways to practice Dana is to offer support to those who share the teachings, to support places of spiritual practice, and to give without judgment or expectation when opportunities arise. Those who share the teachings at Great Tree do so on a Dana basis. Please support their practice by giving what you can. You can either do this directly or through Great Tree, and we will pass it on to them. Seido, would you like us to dedicate the Dana to anything in specific?
Yes, I was going to say I would appreciate those people who want to give Dana should just give it directly to Great Tree and support Great Tree's practice. And I'm okay myself, and I don't particularly need Dana, so I would just rather it go directly to Great Tree.
Well, this morning, our speaker is Seido Don Wilkerson, who practices with the Charlotte Zen Meditation Society, where he has practiced for many years and now leads the practice. He was ordained by our teacher here at Great Tree Zen Temple, Teijo Munnich. And start whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, everyone, and good morning. Just to continue just for a moment on the subject of Dana Paramita, I should say that I always feel like true giving to the practice is to just continue our own practice. And that is a form of giving, just to practice among ourselves with each other. Keeping our sanghas strong is a big part of this practice. You know, the three original baskets are Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So we practice Zazen every day. That's Buddha. Dharma is to follow the teachings, to go to Dharma talks, to practice. And Sangha is the community. And there's many communities across the country and around the world, but I am particularly thinking about the Sangha in the Asheville area, given all that you guys have been through in the last month with the hurricane. That's why I think, you know, all Dana should be passed directly to Great Tree, and, you know, the folks there can decide how to use it best for the people in that area. I came up with the topic for my Dharma talk today just very recently. I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday. It was based on some discussions that we've been having recently in the Charlotte group in our Dharma discussions on Sunday nights. So I decided to title it, This Moment is Enough. Which, you know, for everyone who practices Zen, you know that very well. But it's a part of our practice, of course, to always remind ourselves of things and to always return to that same original intention. You know, what is the intention of our practice? It's so easy to get caught up in the philosophy of practicing Zen and the mechanics of it, going through the motions. But we all know that when we sit down and do Zazen, you know, it is, as they say, Shikan Taza, which is to just sit, nothing more, just to sit. And all the many teachings are so good at pointing to that, especially in Seido Zen, which is our practice. Every time we sit down, we make an effort for it to be original, not just a continuation of something we've done before or anticipating what we'll do in the future. And I know Teijo-san has talked about this so many times. Every experience of Zazen is unique. And it may not seem like it in a kind of a unfocused way. If you're not thinking about it clearly, you might think, oh, well, I sit Zazen all the time. But every time we sit down, it is different. It's totally unique. We may be going through the same forms. We may be following the forms that have been set down for centuries, and it may feel mechanical. It may feel like we're just continuing on a practice, but we're not. It's original every time. And that's the intention we have to have towards our practice for it to be alive in our life and vital. So how do we do that? Well, I titled this just that this moment is enough, because I find that I think quite a few of us, maybe all of us, are pulled towards that idea that maybe what we're doing in our life is not enough. There's something different, something other than what's going on. And I think about it often. Our group has only been sitting virtually on Zoom since the pandemic broke out, which is now that's been 4 years. But back in earlier days when we met together, we would have newcomers come fairly often. Almost every week, every few weeks, we'd have newcomers come, and whoever gave Zazen instruction, of course, had the responsibility of trying to introduce someone who probably had never sat Zazen before and probably wasn't even familiar with meditation. And you do your best to try and bring them into whatever world they're in, bring them into the idea of the Zen practice. And it's, I think it's challenging if you take it seriously, because you genuinely want to help them understand what it is we do and why we do it. And it can be a bit subtle, I think. And so therefore it's daunting to try and explain to somebody what we're doing and why we're doing it and how we're doing it. But one of the things I used to ask people, newcomers, when I would talk with them about the posture, of course, I would go through all the mechanics of how to sit physically, the posture, and so forth. But I would ask them to reflect on their life for a moment, like, choose the last 24 hours or the last week, whatever they wanted to do, and just pause for a moment and think about how much of their time during the day did they spend in the past, thinking about something in the past or being involved in something in the past. How much of their time did they spend in the future, anticipating something that they think is going to happen and how to prepare for it and so forth. And how much of their time did they spend right in the moment? And of course, for most of us, the answer is something that gets your attention, because you realize that at work or school or in your personal life, whatever, you spend a good deal of time in the past, something that happened, you're reacting to it, you're trying to analyze it, figure it out, or you spend a good bit of time in the future, like I said, anticipating things. So I ask them, I say, what do you think the value would be of bringing yourself into this moment, letting go of the past, letting go of the future as much as possible, as much as you can, and just staying here in this moment. And of course, everybody acknowledges, yes, there'd be value in that. So how do you do it? You know, you talk about the practice of Zazen. You know, we bring ourselves usually, whether we're sitting together as a Sangha or whether we're sitting alone, we try to bring ourselves to a particular spot. And hopefully it's a reasonably quiet place with as few distractions as possible, but it's not perfect. It never is. Every Zendo, every place of practice always has noise and distractions. And I think that's because that reflects real life. But we do try to minimize things. We try to create a conducive environment. And so we sit down on our cushion and we practice, you know, following our breath or whatever practice we develop, with the idea of not stopping those thoughts, but letting go of them, just letting them drift away and be in the moment. And then I think, you know, we realize that this practice can be, I don't know, you could say boring, tedious, whatever. There's no particular excitement or interest in it. So we ask ourselves, well, what is it about this moment that we should be attracted to? And, you know, we find that when we don't stay in the moment, and when we do stay in the past or the future, we're just constantly entertaining the same issues and problems that we've been over in our lives so many times. And we're not giving ourselves any opportunity, I believe, to see those problems differently, whether they're problems from the past or the future, either one. We tend to gravitate to the same old answers. When you move into the moment, to the present moment, as subtle as it may be to try and get there, you're giving yourself that opportunity to see things differently. And I'm reminded of Teijo-san. I know on a number of occasions has made the comment that the present moment is the moment of infinite possibility. And I always just stop and reflect on that when I hear her say that, because it's true. And the past is not infinite possibility, and I don't think the future is infinite possibility. In fact, I think, you know, when you practice Zazen, you realize there is nothing other than the present moment. Everything else doesn't even exist. You know, I'm trying to be less philosophical about all this than just practical. I have some readings here that I'm going to read. My friend Milton Clapp gathered some quotes from different books, different Zen teachers, which I'm going to read because I think they help point out some of the truths that I've just been talking about. And I appreciate him gathering those quotes for me. Our group is currently reading a Thich Nhat Hanh book, The Heart of the Buddha's Teachings, on Sunday nights, and that's where our Dharma discussions have been centered on. So I thought I would start with one of his readings to begin with. And I think this reading sort of captures the spirit or the experience that so many people have just in our ordinary daily life, which sort of sets up some of the things I'm going to talk about. So let me just take a moment to read this. Like I said, this is from the Heart of the Buddha's Teachings by Thich Nhat Hanh. And he says, there's a story in Zen circles about a man and a horse. The horse is galloping quickly, and it appears that the man on the horse is going somewhere important. Another man standing along the roadside shouts, "Where are you going?" And the first man replies, "I don't know. Ask the horse." And then Thich Nhat Hanh says, this is also our story. We are riding a horse. We don't know where we are going, and we can't stop. The horse is our habit energy pulling us along, and we are powerless. We are always running, and it has become a habit. We struggle all the time, even during our sleep. We are at war within ourselves, and we can easily start a war with others. We have to learn the art of stopping our thinking, our habit energies, our forgetfulness, the strong emotions that rule us. How can we stop this state of agitation? How can we stop our fear, despair, anger, and craving? We can stop by practicing mindful breathing, mindful walking, mindful smiling, and deep looking in order to understand. We are mindful, touching deeply the present moment. So Thich Nhat Hanh, of course, is sort of just reflecting on what the human condition is for most people most of the time. We go into the swamp to drain it, and suddenly we're fighting off the alligators, and we forget why we even went into the swamp to begin with. There's so many stories you could tell about the lives we normally live. But I'm reminded when I read that, it pulls me back to Buddha's original observations in his Four Noble Truths when he first started teaching. And everybody knows the Four Noble Truths, but the more you practice, the more you understand what he was talking about and how it applies, not just in a sort of straightforward, okay, these are the four things you need to know, but really how they actually do work in your life and how they apply. He noticed and observed in himself and everybody around him that there's so much suffering. We just all walk around caught up in what Thich Nhat Hanh was just talking about. We're letting the habit energies of our lives run everything, and we're struggling with it. We suffer. And of course, the Buddha simply said, well, you suffer because you're holding on to something that's impermanent and not entirely accurate, because you hold on to it and cling to it, and it doesn't come out the way you want it to, you suffer. Everything is changing. Nothing stays the same, so on and so forth. I think it's important to know that the Buddha didn't say the world is suffering or that everything is suffering. There's nothing wrong with the world. There's nothing wrong with life. It's not suffering. It's only suffering when you misperceive it. It's only suffering when you cling to something that you haven't clearly dealt with. When you see things inaccurately, then you'll suffer. If you sit down on your cushion and you get very quiet and still and let everything drop away, including all those habit energies, and you start seeing things as they really are, you can be free. Life is not suffering then. And I think that's what I was trying to get at with the title. This moment is enough. We're always trying to get more out of life than what is just what we perceive to be there. And that's usually because we're not in the present moment. We're not satisfied with what's going on. We want it to be better, faster, bigger, or whatever. It doesn't matter. We just want it to be different than what we perceive it to be. And usually the problem is that we're just not actually in the present moment. We may not realize it, but if the only chance we give ourselves to see whether we're in the present moment or not is when we're doing Zazen. I think we're so busy in our lives. Only somebody who has a great deal of practice can still be in the moment when they're in their everyday life. It takes a lot of practice to get there. For most of us, getting to that cushion is the best opportunity we're going to have to drop off all those habit energies and see what's really there instead of what we're creating. Let me read another thing here. This particular reading is from Opening the Hand of Thought, which I'm sure some of you are familiar with. Zazen throws out our petty thoughts that seek satisfaction and manifest life purely as life. Therefore, full of vigor, we just aim at the correct posture with our flesh and bones. Just practicing this is doing Zazen. Zazen has nothing to do with thinking about results. The feeling that something is lacking is no more than our petty thoughts of being unfulfilled. Only when we let go of all such ideas will our life find peace in the purity of full life. Well, he just said that much more eloquently and poetically than I did. But it's the same idea. The less time we spend in the moment and the more time we spend in the past and the present, the more we're going to suffer and the less we're going to appreciate what's actually right there in front of us. I have another reading here. This is from Eckhart Tolle, which I thought was very interesting. Same theme. He says, don't let a mad world tell you that success is anything other than a successful present moment. And what is that? There is this sense of quality in what you do, even the most simple action. Quality implies care and attention, which comes with awareness. Quality requires your presence. Your secondary or outer purpose lies within the dimension of time, while your main purpose is inseparable from the now. How are they reconciled? By realizing that your entire life journey ultimately consists of the step you are taking at this moment. I think that's something worth, reflecting on. I think quite often all of us who practice Zen try to reconcile, as he said, all the dichotomies in the world and the dichotomies in our life. And we're constantly asking ourselves, well, how can I do that? How can I get rid of this habit energy? How can I be in the present moment? How can I deal with all these frustrations that I keep being pulled back into because I'm not staying in the present moment enough. And there's no secret and there's no trick. There just isn't. And I know it's obviously a prejudice of mine because I am a Zen practitioner, but to me, in my life experience, I don't know of any way to get to the truth of life and get to the actual reality of our existence better than Zen practice. Now, if somebody knows of something, let me know. But I think Teijo-san said one time, the more practice you do, the more sitting you do, then the more sitting you'll want to do. It'll keep drawing you back, which I think is true. And that's even when you struggle with it. Because I think we all struggle in our practice, but you struggle even more when you don't attempt to practice. And hopefully you'll be wise enough to realize that and see it. I'm going to read another reading now. This is from Shohaku Akamura, because I found this again to be something that was right on target. After practicing with my teacher for some time, I found that meaning is created in our lives when we find our own place and path and begin to do something. Until that moment, there is no ready-made meaning or purpose to our lives. I finally found my own place and path when I chose one thing and actually did it. I had a path on which I could proceed. The actualization of reality is not a concept or philosophical idea. It is an actual practice using one's body and mind, a body and mind that are connected with the entire universe. This broad, flexible, and endless path of Zazen practice has led me to a wondrous and unbelievable way of life. This path exists only at this very moment, right now and right here. Before I began walking this path, absolutely no path existed for me, and yet this path did not simply come into being when I began to walk it. Nothing is meaningless when we have our own place and path. In reality, our place and our path are not something outside of us. Our place and path are nothing other than ourselves. And that comes from the book Realizing Genjo Koan, which happens to be, I don't know, probably my favorite book, or reading the Genjo Koan itself is one of my favorite things, but Shohaku-san does such an amazing job of explaining the Genjo Koan as far as I'm concerned. So as far as recommendations go, if I were going to recommend a book to read, I would recommend Realizing Genjo Koan. It's meant a lot to me. It's been something that's helped me stay on the path. I think I'm going to, pause now and give everybody a chance to talk and ask questions. If I can't answer a question, maybe somebody else can help with it. But I think I'd like to hear from people and see what you think about some of the quotes I said and some of the things I've talked about. Maybe we can have a conversation here. Yes.
Hi, I'm Jaja. First of all, thank you for your talk today.
Thank you.
And one thing that really resonated was when the quote where there's no inherent meaning or assigned meaning or purpose in life, where once you find your own path, your own meaning, uh, there's comfort or the gist of it. That's something I really struggled with the past few years, actually, after a major car accident and multiple surgeries and years of pain, physical pain, um, that practicing, since I found Zazen about a year and a half ago, um, being in the moment has helped me to find that meaning in the sense that now, like, I'm practicing acupuncture because it helped me. I mean, rather, I'm in acupuncture school because it helped me so much. And everything that has led me to acupuncture school makes sense and I have meaning from that. And so thank you for that quote. And I feel like this is just another I guess confirmation for me. So thank you.
Thank you.
One thing I've noticed, especially since starting a much more regular and structured Zazen practice here at Great Tree, is that I'm much more likely to like depend on this Zazen session on this Saturday morning to get into that mindful place and to become aware of the present moment. And you just mentioned how oftentimes that's our only chance to get like awareness. And I think I've been really pushing to try to become less attached to like this time right here, not to be less present while I'm here, but to make sure that I'm not immediately losing that presence as soon as I walk out the door. Um, but it's almost feels impossible. Like it almost like coming here has made it even harder. But it's a fun challenge, I feel like, in my practice right now.
A lot of times in Zen, we talk about what is your original intention?
Hmm.
And in doing Zazen, it's rather subtle in a way because you want to sit down on the cushion and you want to completely unhook and just drop off body and mind, as they always say. So you're in a sense, you have no goal, you have no thing you're trying to do other than just completely empty yourself and be in that moment. And like I just was talking about earlier, that's sometimes a struggle for us because our ordinary mind wants to have a goal, it wants to have something to cling to, it wants to feel like it's going in a direction or something is happening or my zazen is accumulating or this is happening or that's happening. And really, those things, even if they're subtle, they're just they're not the core of Zen or not the core of sitting. They're just ideas that are going to occur to you. The reality of doing Zazen is to let go of all that. At the same time, you don't really let go of your intention. You still have the intention of practicing Zazen and going forward and continuing on. It's just you give up or you relax your ideas on what it is you're trying to do. I mean, Shohaku-san, in that last reading I read, suggested that you can go along thinking you have a path and a place, but that's going to end up being refined as time goes by. Early on in your career and practicing, you might have rather simple goals like, oh, I want to be able to sit all day without being in such physical discomfort. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. That's an okay goal to have. But as you go along and continue to practice further and further, it's not always even things that you can state and talk about, but you will continue to evolve. And your intention will always be there, which is to sort of sit down, empty yourself, let go of everything, and try to move into that present moment where you're more accessible to everything. You're not stuck in the past or the future. So whatever, if it's acupuncture, if it's anything in life that you find, it can be a place and it can be a path. There's lots of things that can be your path. As long as you stay true to your original intention of being true to yourself and being quiet and staying in that present moment.
I was a philosophy major, and it's just totally from head to toe my karmic self. Nothing I can do about it. Wait, my wife's behind me. What? Okay. So I just read and read and read. I've certainly been sitting about 50 years, but looking for a verbal structure that I could see on a written page that would ring the bell for me. And then I can go back to my first experience of really sitting seriously because I have a mental illness. Was in 1968 at 5 o'clock in the morning in San Francisco. And suddenly, Milton disappeared for a short time. He didn't die, but the sense of me disappeared. And I could hear the trucks going down Bush Street. I could hear Katagiri's robes and footsteps behind me. I could hear people coughing. But it was in a spacious world without me. And I felt relief. And I also felt, oh, this is what it is. So having just a few seconds, I don't remember how long it was, but it was an eye-opening moment for me to walk through the door temporarily of what this practice is. So for years, I obviously kept looking, well, where's the sentence that will nail that for me? Then I know everything's okay. I got it written down right here, And one of the sentences I found was in Eckhart Tolle's book, A New Earth. And that sentence was, when awareness separates from thinking. When awareness separates from thinking. Then you're not thinking about thinking. You're not thinking about trying to do this zazen. Those thoughts might be going on, but now you're just aware that they're going on. Mm. So you've stepped out of that. And then the next phrase that has stayed with me for years was Katagiri's phrase. I think Teijo's probably let everybody know who Katagiri is. He said, a precise effort, and we could say a precise non-thinking effort, is necessary for going beneath the thinking self. So what is the precise effort? That's what we have to find. Don't float around. Find that precise effort.
This is Dave Jardura. Thanks, Milton. That was great to hear about your experience and identify with it a little. Hi, Don. Thanks for this. This is great. I think it's really the essence of Zen to talk about the moment and being present in it. And I think the topic we've had for discussion is, how do we get into this awareness? Is there a method? And at least in my experience, and sitting again for about 50 years, I think a method doesn't exist, but circumstances might. And so sitting is a circumstance that makes sense to me. It seems very logical to me when you actually see your thinking process as a little bit delusional almost always. That is, that it's telling you something about the past, which is just an imagination of the past, or it's telling you something about anticipating a future which you can't anticipate. So when you think about how that process is bringing you out of the moment, you see there's this constant distortion in the thinking process. And so it seems to me that the moment is reality when you realize that the thinking process is a distortion of reality. So anyway, that's the way I think about it, at least in terms of deprecating the thinking process and seeing that the without thinking process of being present in the moment has to be valued just simply because you're contradicting the value of thinking. In terms of circumstance, I go out in the woods hiking a lot on my own. And it seems to me that's a process, even though you're being active and you're not just sitting and you have some goals. And I like to identify things that I see. There's a presence there where I really feel the universal as well as myself simultaneously. And I think this is something that Shohaku emphasizes in Realizing Genjo Koan too, that actualization of the present moment involves sort of an actualization of the universal and the individual simultaneously. And so I find that being in the woods and being in nature has this, it's in your face of the universal, that we're just chemistry, that we're just part of this universe, and we're just sitting watching this complex process that we're just part of, we're not separate from. And so just as a circumstance, it seems to be very valuable to me anyway, to get out into nature and to feel its presence as part of yourself. So thanks again, Don. That was a great lecture. I think it's on point.
Well, thank you both for all of you for your comments. One thing I did not say so much about what you guys just pointed out, was that, you know, our awareness, develop our awareness, and we have it with us when we get up off the cushion. Yes. Zen would not be much good if we only were aware or only truly practicing in the moment when we were sitting on our cushion. I think maybe I didn't make that clear enough, but most of us need a time and a place to help us realize how important it is to be in the moment. And so we choose a Zafu and a Zabuton and a Zendo to bring about that awareness and to cultivate it. But obviously, you know, we want to carry that awareness when we get up off the cushion and continue on with our day doing whatever it is we do. So thank you for reminding all of us of that.
There's one other thing I'd like to say I was intending on saying, I forgot. And it's more of a question. It seems like when you're really in the moment with this awareness of our universality and, you know, our individual expression of it, that awareness isn't ours. It's like it exists outside of us in a sense. Like it's, you know, we often use the word because it seems right that awareness is ours, but it seems to me when you're really in the moment, it's not yours, you know, it's just there. It can, just wanted to see if someone could comment on that.
No, David, I like that idea because I think both you, Uchiyama and Okamura were trying to point to that when we're sitting zazen, or even when we're not actually sitting, but we're in the universe, we becoming aware that we are interdependent. And I think that's what you're getting at, is interdependence. And that is, and that lets go of the self versus other. So you're letting go of the dichotomy there. And I agree, that's important. I don't know how well I ever achieve that, but every once in a while, maybe I can, but I work towards that. So thank you.
I was listening to a talk by Enkyo O'Hara, or she, Enkyo O'Hara, and she was talking about the heart of wisdom, and what you all are saying makes me think of that. The whole idea about you make the path by walking, but he said it differently. She referred to the beginning of the Heart Sutra where it says Avalokiteshvara while doing the prajna paramita. And then she talked about not understanding it, but doing it, because she said that as soon as, you know, understanding comes up, that conceptual thing, it separates us from the experience of it. And that, you know, that the actual experiences kind of precedes our mental recognition. It just happens when you're available to it, I guess would be the way to say it. Anyway, it seemed to fit real well with what we're talking about.
I think at this point in my life, I'm 80 years old now. I think there's only one mind, and there's never been multiple minds. And the one mind wanted something like us to to show up. So he used his one mind to have us show up for his party, or her party, or its party, whatever. Let's not. I'm an old Presbyterian. I can't get rid of that too well. The other thing is a phrase by Achan Chah, C-H-A-H, who I really think his book on insight meditation, he's a Thai, Theravada is the word, teacher that had so many wonderful students. But anyway, he says there's a mind within the mind. And so we live in this little small mind, the me, and at some point we step below it or out of it or whatever. As David said, walking in nature, and nature aids him in stepping out of his sense of David. So that would be finding the mind within the mind. And Uchiyama makes it pretty clear that until you actually have that experience, you don't quite know what the Buddha way is. And so that's why I always felt like clarify that as much as possible, so that you don't, because it can be explained, so you don't stay in that, as Anne was just talking about, in the conceptual sense of what you're trying to do in Zazen. And I think almost all of us at some short moments in our life, that conceptual sense just, and we suddenly go, oh. And then if we've read some stuff on Zen, that's what started me, was, oh, that's what this Japanese guy's talking about. So, so I easily feel comfortable saying there's just one mind, as Tolkien said, one mind that rules them all.
I think the boomers have spoken a lot, and I was curious as to how the younger people in the temple are, what they think about all this.
Sometimes I feel like in Zazen, I come to a place where I feel like I'm a little bit outside of myself, or not even Zazen. Sometimes it's through exercise or through going out in nature. And sometimes I find the romanticization of that experience really powerful. And it kind of detracts a little bit from how I appreciate just my everyday mundane life. And I feel like right now, I'm 20 years old or 24 years old. I try to find myself appreciating like the presence and the romance of like the mundaneness of my life, and of like, my name is Joe, of Joe. And sometimes I feel like when I get outside of Joe, that in some ways is also kind of getting out of the present moment, because Joe's here right now, you know. But I'm always excited to see how this relationship will change as my practice continues. And 50 years from now, you know, I'm dying to know how I feel then. And it's great to hear how you guys feel.
When I heard the first person speak about actually a couple of you, big mind and the experience and all of that, I think about the Tao, but the Tao that can be named is not the Tao, and it's really rooted in like the Tao is impersonable, it exists, that what keeps us all here. it pretty comforting. It's like something we talk about in Zen, or I heard in the Houston Zen Center where I came from, nothing special. And to me, that gives me relief. I think it relieves the pressure of having to perform and knowing that it is actually okay to exist in your own essence, and that essence is part of a bigger essence, and the inherent existence, not coexistence. I've been practicing Zazen for about 1.5 years now, and even something I was taught early on in my practice was even paying attention to washing the dishes, like that kind of stuff. And it's just, I feel like I'm rambling, but there is value in sitting, and there's also equal value in paying attention to the dishes and your general function in life, in daily life, is also enlightenment.
I think part of what I was trying to get at in my title, this moment is enough, and I really didn't get to it in my talk, is this idea of there's no need to have that feeling of I need to be swinging for the fences. I need to really be trying to accomplish enlightenment. I need to wake up and have Satori, and I need to do all this. I need to accomplish all this. Those are just ideas, and they're just concepts. Just like David was talking about awareness earlier, just be satisfied in this moment. Just be happy with the moment and be satisfied there, and bring yourself back to that moment over and over and over again, and relax when it comes to this habit energy that keeps pulling you towards some goal or towards some anticipated future where you're going to be all awake and everything's going to be all great. Because you won't get there when your mind stays on that idea. You only get there when you let go of all that and just be content with this moment right now here. And I probably didn't get around to that in my talk, but that's a big part of the present moment. Is clinging is clinging, and the Buddha, taught us that when you keep on grasping for things, you're moving away from where you want to be. You're still not finding the present moment. You're still hunting for something beyond the present moment. And it's like Shohaku-san said, it's only when you find that path that's right for you and you settle into it and you put all your devotion and energy into that you'll be able to stay in the moment.
Yeah, my name is Will. And yeah, something that's come up for me a lot as I'm sort of new to Buddhist practice, maybe a year or two of learning about it and practicing. But I've done other forms of meditation before. And yeah, I guess I'm totally aware that this could just be my own conditioning and like lower self struggling and clinging on to like what I have going on right now and not wanting change and being scared of that. But something that usually comes up for me with like a really strong emphasis on like the present moment and staying in the present moment being the ultimate goal is sort of a resistance there, and a sort of a questioning as to like if I truly want that for myself. Like I think I do believe like having the ability to have memory and the ability for, you know, creativity and inspiration and imagining a better future are both great gifts that we have been given. And so I think my intention right now for practicing is more so unraveling the suffering that is involved in the past and the present, but I don't want to give up the past and the present too. I would like a more of a balance between the three, the past, the present, and the future, because they seem to be, like, at least right now to me, like all necessary and good, but you know, yeah, that's kind of just what has been going on for me as we've been talking about this.
I think that's legitimate. I mean, it's not like our thinking process is not real. It's real. The question is, what is it telling you about reality that's true? And that's where you need some deep insight into how a lot of the time the thinking process is not telling you about reality. It's telling you about your conditioning. And so you could, you know, see thinking as something that you have to understand more deeply. Not that you reject it, but that understanding it to see where it distorts and where it helps, like in technical fields, for example. You need a thinking process that's disciplined, right? Whereas most of our everyday thinking is about our social relationships, and often that's kind of distorted. So yeah, I don't think we need to deny thinking. I think we just need to understand it better. It's part of our reality. We are thinking, we are Homo sapiens, thinking organisms. So
somewhere Shunryu Suzuki in his book Not Always So, I can't remember even the paraphrase it, but he talks about the two kinds of thinking. And there's ordinary thinking where we're just kind of lost in a sea of what Okamura calls the map. We make a map of things and we carry this map around, and the problem is we believe the map. We have to have a map. You know, where's the bus? What time does the bus stop? I got to get on the bus. But then we let the map in our brain take over everything. But then Suzuki talks about the other kind of thinking, like probably the thinking that I had the morning that Milton wasn't there in San Francisco. Then that wasn't delusionary thinking. That was clarifying, using the human brain to clarify what had happened, and to be able to communicate that again to myself and to share it with whomever. And that kind of clarified thinking is extremely important, because particularly when you get old, you got to dig back through your brain sometimes to find the sentence that really, really, pow, hits you. And that's not ordinary thinking. That kind of sentence came out of an insight thinking.
Yeah, I would like to just interject very quickly. It is 11 o'clock, so I'm not sure exactly what kind of schedule everyone's on. I don't want to run too far over time. in case people have other things they need to do, I just want everybody to be aware it's 11 o'clock. And this always happens in Dharma discussions. It really starts to get really good. And then we move on to something else.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you. Does anyone have any final comments they want to make before we close?